Hey everyone, today I'll be talking about the second line of defense as a part of the Search for Better Health syllabus in biology. So the dot point says that we need to talk about the inflammation response, phagocytosis, lymph system, and cell death to seal off pathogen. So the second line of defense, as I said before in the last video, is that it's non-specific, which means that it attacks any foreign substance, not just pathogens. It can't tell between a pathogen and a foreign substance. So we'll move on to the first part, which is the inflammation response. So the inflammation response is a non-specific defense mechanism that occurs at the site of infection. When the cells or parts of the body are damaged, a chemical alarm such as histamines is released. So histamines is just this chemical that tells the body that the inflammation response needs to occur at that area. So the blood vessels dilate. That's the first step of the inflammation response. Now when blood vessels dilate, that means that there's more blood flow being sent to the injured area, and this causes redness, heat, and swelling. So altogether, once this blood flow is increased, the blood vessels then become more permeable, allowing for phagocytes, which we will cover a bit later, to enter more easily. Now, phagocytes themselves, I'll define it now just so you don't get confused already, are basically pathogen-eating white blood cells. But they don't necessarily have to eat pathogens, but that is why they're mainly used. They can eat any foreign substance that the body requires to be eaten in that sense. Okay, so step 4 of the inflammation response is that the heat-inducing chemicals are released. And this is mainly because heat actually acts as another mechanism to destroy pathogen toxins as well as just pathogens themselves. When heat is actually released, the pathogens sometimes cannot survive in such heat, or it's the toxins that end up dying or getting removed. Okay, so that's the inflammation response done with. Now, if you ever do get a question on the inflammation response, you want to talk about these chemicals, you want to talk about these blood vessels, and you also want to talk about how blood vessels dilate and how they become more permeable. All these things are going to help you. Talking about the heat is just an extra, which will also really help you in a test. It's not that hard to remember either. Anyways, we'll move on to phagocytosis. Now, phagocytosis is quite a weird word and a big one, but phagocytosis is just the process in which a cell engulfs another cell. And phagocytes themselves are basically white blood cells that do exactly that. These white blood cells, called phagocytes, they actually allow for the engulfing of cells, and when engulfed, they allow for that cell inside to die. So, phagocytes, the phagocytosis is the process whereby foreign material is enclosed within the phagocyte cell, and the enzymes are released to destroy the foreign material. Now, these phagocytes are specialized white blood cells, and they consist of two types. There's neutrophils and there's macrophages. Now, these two types, they do have a slightly different function, and that's mainly related to the amount of time that they stay for and what they do. So neutrophils, they move first. They're the first ones to get there. And when they do get to the site of infection, they inactivate the pathogens. Now, or any foreign substance, really. Anyways, these neutrophils, they don't last long. They self-destruct in a few days, which is not bad since the first there. But these neutrophils should only be used to fight short infections, because they only last like 7 to 10 days, something near that. Now these macrophages, another part, they're long-lasting phagocytes which can either stay in tissues or travel from the blood vessels into the infected tissues. And this actually allows for fighting a chronic infection. Remember, chronic does mean long-term, so that's what it's used for. Anyways, after the macrophage actually destroys a foreign particle, parts of the antigen are displayed on the surface of the macrophage in order to actually trigger the helper T cells, which is a part of the third line of defense, which we will learn later. Don't worry about that. Anyways, so number 5, the phagocytosis. I just stated here that it's not always successful, as pathogens can break out, and sometimes this is how pathogens somehow survive into our body. Now, the last mechanism that we need to talk about in the second line of defense is called the cell death to seal pathogens. Now, cell death to seal pathogens is as easy as it sounds. Cells die in order to not let the pathogens get out. That's pretty much it in like one sentence. Anyways, if you do want a bit more of a explanation, sometimes cells die to seal off an area of tissue that is infected and is not being successfully defended by the body. If the infected cells are surrounded by a wall of dead cells, it prevents the infection from spreading to other areas and infecting them. So that's pretty much all it is in this sense. So I hope I did cover all 4 parts. I talked about the inflammation response to the phagocytosis. Well, I didn't talk about the lymph system, mainly because I personally don't think you need it. I've done the last like 10 years. I've looked through the last 10 years of past papers. I couldn't find it. But anyways, the lymph system, if you do want to learn more, what I'll do is I'll put a link up in the description. I really should have covered it, but I didn't get to. But anyways, I will put it up in the description. You can have a look on HSC Online and whatnot. They have some good resources on it. And the last one was cell death to seal off pathogens. Okay, so I hope this does help, regardless that it doesn't have the lymph system as a part of it. But good luck for the HSC.